She had zero interest when he was upset, and she expected the staff the entire time. Meghan refused to touch or look after Archie even once. This British Airways staff member insisted to me that it was very obvious to her that there was zero connection between.
What if the truth about Meghan and Harry's children wasn't whispered behind palace walls, but right there at 30,000 feet? Picture this: a seasoned airline crew, sworn to discretion, frozen in place as they overhear the royal couple murmuring confessions no tabloid could ever invent. It wasn't a leaked email or an anonymous tip. This time, the revelations came straight from Meghan and Harry's own voices. According to insiders, the flight attendants traded stunned glances in the galley, straining to catch every word. Because what they heard wasn't just idle gossip. It was a moment so raw, so unguarded, that it shattered years of carefully staged images. And once that plane touched down, those secrets started to slip out, one hushed conversation at a time. If even half of what the crew claims is true, the Sussex fairy tale may have been built on something far darker than anyone dared to imagine. It all started on a transatlantic flight most passengers assumed was just another routine journey. Meghan swept onto the aircraft dressed head to toe in luxury, her hair glossy, her expression composed. Harry trailed behind her, carrying what looked like a soft baby blanket tucked under one arm. To the casual observer, it was just a young family boarding first class. But to the crew who had served on royal flights before, something immediately felt off. There was no warmth, no natural ease between mother and child. The baby, bundled tightly, never once looked up at Meghan, and she never reached down to adjust his blanket, to stroke his cheek, or even to smile. It was a scene that felt more staged than sincere, and the tension only grew as the hours passed. Several attendants later shared that Meghan barely interacted with her son the entire flight. Instead, she focused on her seat arrangement, her in-flight meal, and her appearance. She asked for extra pillows, repositioned her designer shawl, and reapplied lipstick more times than they could count. Meanwhile, a discreetly uniformed nanny did everything: bottle feedings, diaper changes, soothing the baby when he fussed. To the crew, it seemed less like a mother traveling with her newborn and more like a celebrity overseeing a staff-managed accessory. They exchanged glances, each silently wondering if they were witnessing something bigger than jet lag or first-time parent nerves. But it wasn't the cold demeanor alone that left the crew rattled. It was what came next. Just before landing, Meghan and Harry lowered their voices, leaning in close. They spoke in hushed tones, but not quietly enough to evade the trained ears of the nearby flight attendants. According to one veteran crew member, Harry sounded weary, almost defeated as he asked, "What happens if this comes out? What if they figure it out before we're ready?" Meghan's response was a tight whisper. "Then we deny everything. We can't let them question who they are. It's too late to undo it." Those words sent a chill through the galley. What secret could be so monumental it required an ironclad denial? And who exactly were they? When the plane finally landed, Meghan composed herself instantly. She descended the stairs with a practiced smile, waving to the cameras as though nothing had happened. But behind the scenes, the whispers had already begun. The crew's accounts didn't stay hidden for long. Within days, an anonymous tip found its way to royal watchers and tabloids eager to pounce. And that's when the story cracked open. While some dismissed it as gossip, others knew this wasn't an isolated incident. The flight attendant's account mirrored rumors that had been simmering since 2019, when Meghan appeared on live television, visibly pregnant and bent down to sit. In that moment, cameras captured something that still sparks debate. The outline of her belly appeared to fold in on itself, an unnatural crease no one could explain. Her defenders chalked it up to an ill-fitted dress. Critics called it proof of a prosthetic bump. And now, hearing Meghan whisper about denying the truth, the old footage took on a sinister new significance. Meanwhile, as the chatter grew, one woman decided she could stay silent no longer. Known only as DL, she stepped forward with claims that dwarfed every headline before it. DL wasn't a social media gossip or a former palace aide. She said she was the woman who carried both of Meghan's children. Twice. hidden away in private compounds during each pregnancy, isolated without phone access, and sworn to secrecy with threats she now calls manipulative and cruel. Her story was as shocking as it was detailed. DL claimed she was selected through a discreet surrogacy agency, recruited not just for her health but for her willingness to disappear behind a curtain of confidentiality. She described being driven to an undisclosed estate where her every move was monitored by staff who never gave their names. The windows were blacked out. Her meals were delivered by silent attendants. When she tried to ask questions about why the process was so extreme, she was told only, "This is bigger than you." DL's voice cracked as she described the birth of Archie. According to her, no legal surrogacy paperwork was ever finalized. There were no photos, no acknowledgments, just a quiet handoff in a dimly lit hospital room, a signature on a confidentiality agreement, and a cold exit through the back door. The second birth, she says, was even more isolating. And after the second child was delivered, Meghan never contacted her again. DL said she felt erased, like her role had never happened. Skeptics demanded proof. DL didn't flinch. She produced a collection of ultrasounds bearing her name and dates, hospital bracelets from both deliveries, and time-stamped videos filmed on a smuggled phone. One clip showed her in a delivery gown, exhausted, whispering the birth date and hospital location into the camera as tears slid down her cheeks. To her, the evidence wasn't just about vindication, it was a challenge. If you doubt me, test them. Test me. Let the truth speak. While DL's account exploded online, Meghan's PR machine shifted into high gear. Overnight, the Sussex social channels flooded with idyllic family content. Videos of Archie toddling through wildflowers, Lilibet giggling on a picnic blanket, warm captions about unconditional love and the joy of motherhood. For casual followers, it was enough to brush off the rumors. But for critics who'd been following every contradiction, the timing felt calculated, almost desperate. The palace, too, could no longer ignore the storm. Insiders revealed that King Charles quietly ordered advisors to examine the line of succession and review whether any precedent existed for stripping titles in the event of an invalid birth claim. Legal scholars began poring over centuries-old records. They debated whether children born without proper legal recognition could inherit royal privileges. Behind palace gates, the mood was reportedly tense. One insider described it as a gathering panic. Another called it the kind of scandal you only see once in a dynasty. As pressure mounted, Harry's silence grew deafening. Once known for his cheeky charm and open defiance of royal convention, he seemed to vanish. No statements, no denials. Friends tried to reach him, only to be met with cold replies or none at all. Staffers whispered that he looked haunted, distracted, prone to sudden anger. Some believed he had known the truth all along and was too entrenched to back out. Others insisted he was blindsided, a pawn in a much bigger game. While Harry retreated, Meghan's defenders doubled down. They insisted DL was lying, a fame-seeker exploiting royal fascination. But when asked why Meghan wouldn't simply release birth documentation to end the rumors once and for all, they had no clear answer. And every hour the silence stretched, more people began to wonder. If this were just a baseless conspiracy, why not crush it with facts? Meanwhile, DL continued her quiet campaign. She made no demands for money, no pleas for sympathy. Her goal, she said, was simple: to be acknowledged as the mother of 2 children she carried. She didn't want fame, only truth. And if that meant taking a live, supervised DNA test, she was ready. The idea of a televised confirmation set the internet ablaze. Hashtags calling for transparency trended for days. Even prominent journalists began to admit the evidence was too detailed to dismiss outright. In the midst of the chaos, old footage and photographs resurfaced, grainy images dissected frame by frame. Was that a surrogate bump shifting out of place? Were the dates of Meghan's reported hospital visits inconsistent? Every detail, once overlooked, now felt like a clue in a sprawling mystery. For royal watchers, it was a vindication of years spent connecting dots the media had ignored. As scrutiny intensified, brands that once clamored to partner with Meghan began to pull back. A luxury baby brand rumored to be planning a capsule collection quietly suspended discussions. A major publisher delayed a planned memoir about her journey into motherhood. Even Netflix insiders admitted the controversy made executives nervous. One producer put it bluntly, "The story is radioactive. No one wants to touch it until it's resolved." But perhaps the most surreal moment came when a widely shared clip of a little girl said to be Lilibet sparked fresh doubts. Eagle-eyed viewers pointed out her features, her hair color, her eye shape, and questioned whether she bore any resemblance to Harry. Reddit threads multiplied overnight. Some speculated the child was a stand-in, part of an elaborate illusion to protect a secret that had grown too big to contain. Through it all, Meghan remained publicly composed. She issued no direct rebuttals. Instead, she posted carefully curated images of a blissful family life. But behind the scenes, insiders said she was furious. Furious at DL's audacity. Furious at the airlines whose crew broke silence. And most of all, furious that after years of controlling the narrative, the story had finally slipped beyond her grasp. For the royal family, the stakes couldn't be higher. If DL's claims were proven true, the consequences would be unprecedented. Titles could be revoked, succession lines could be redrawn, trust in the monarchy, already strained, could fracture beyond repair. No palace spin doctor could tidy up a scandal built not on rumor but on records and DNA. And still, Harry said nothing. In the final days before DL's announced DNA test, speculation reached fever pitch. Would the results confirm everything? Or expose DL as an elaborate fraud? The world was about to find out. Because if her story checked out, Meghan wouldn't just lose the public's adoration. She'd lose her place in history as the woman who tried to rewrite the rules of royal motherhood and got caught. Even as DL's looming DNA test captivated headlines, the story was spiraling into something far bigger than a single surrogate's claim. Commentators began to frame it as a test not just of Meghan's credibility, but of the monarchy itself. Because if a single woman, once invisible, deliberately silenced, could force Buckingham Palace to reconsider the legitimacy of royal heirs, what did that say about the institution's ability to safeguard its own legacy? In private, palace advisors reportedly drafted contingency plans that read like something out of a constitutional thriller. What if DL's DNA matched? Could a private, unregistered surrogacy be legitimized retroactively? Would Archie and Lilibet be declared ineligible to inherit titles or privileges? Some argued the monarchy could simply pass a new decree. Others insisted the damage was already done. No matter what legal maneuvering took place behind the scenes, the public's faith was eroding by the hour. Meanwhile, Meghan's inner circle wavered between defiance and panic. A longtime confidant was quoted anonymously saying, "She never thought it would get this far. She thought she could wait it out, let the noise fade, but this isn't like the tabloids. This is evidence. Receipts. If this woman goes through with a DNA test, Meghan can't just post another family video and expect people to believe it." Even her most loyal allies in Hollywood were said to be quietly distancing themselves. A well-known talk show host who once gushed about Meghan's authenticity was suddenly declining interviews about her. Charities that had previously lauded the Sussexes' philanthropy were issuing bland, non-committal statements. For an image so carefully curated over years, polished to a gleam of modern royalty, the unraveling felt almost cinematic. It wasn't only the elite who were watching. Everyday viewers were obsessing over every tiny clue. Social media became a battleground of theories and counterclaims. TikTok creators pieced together timelines of Meghan's appearances, comparing her belly size from one week to the next. Twitter threads dissected her old podcast quotes about motherhood, measuring them against DL's timeline of her pregnancies. Reddit forums became archives of speculation, peppered with grainy screenshots, archived interviews, and alleged leaks from palace insiders. And yet, for all the digital noise, the most unsettling question remained the simplest. Why wouldn't Meghan just end the debate by producing unambiguous birth certificates or hospital records? To her detractors, the silence was a tacit admission. To her defenders, it was proof of how dehumanizing the scrutiny had become. But to the millions who hovered somewhere in between, it just didn't make sense. In an era where public figures can dispel rumors with a single scanned document, the refusal to do so felt deliberate. While Meghan's reputation teetered, Harry's transformation was equally dramatic. Former friends described a man who seemed lost in the swirl of crisis. He was no longer the cheeky royal who once laughed at paparazzi or gave wry interviews about life in the palace. He had become, in the words of one longtime acquaintance, a shadow of himself. Some insiders believed he was racked with guilt. Others suspected he was clinging to denial. convinced that facing the truth would shatter whatever remained of their carefully constructed life. One particularly revealing detail emerged from a former palace aide who claimed Harry was presented with preliminary findings about the timeline inconsistencies years ago. According to this account, the information was quietly buried, with instructions that any further inquiry be discouraged. If true, it suggested Harry may have known more than he ever let on, perhaps even before DL gathered the courage to speak publicly.